Hey JD, how are you?
I'm well. Good to be here. Thanks. How are you?
Yes, I'm good. A lot of people are waiting for this talk specifically for Curve as a leader in the fintech space that everybody knows. But before we dive into Curve and all the features and everything that's going on, I want to know about you. So maybe a little bit of a background.
Sure. I've had quite a diverse background. I've worked in investing consultancy and pensions firms such as Mercer. I've worked in the cinema and sounds business with Dolby Laboratories, which was a fun uh, stint, especially working on movie releases and being at premieres and so on. And then naturally fell into the world of tech. It was a brilliant opportunity to see how you build businesses, flipping business models on upside down, and being able to understand how do you build product-led growth. And jumping into Uber, at the time it'd taken about a year, 6 years just to get to the first billionth trip, and then they did the next billion trip in 6 months. So it was really a baptism by fire, jumping in at the deep end, and it was a great learning experience, building out multiple markets and launching on Uber Rides and Uber Eats, and then leaving there and joining Coinbase again at the perfect time. 2017 started off very calm for Coinbase, and ultimately they had exponential growth during that year, and ended the year with tens of million customers, and multiple services, multiple businesses. So really understanding how to build companies in a scale-up environment. And when I realized what Curve was doing, it felt really compelling because I've been at Coinbase for 2.5 years. And I like to join businesses where I fundamentally wonder, how are we getting away with doing this in terms of why are we able to do this first compared to others? And Curve's business model is very attractive in terms of the innovation and rethinking fundamental problems. So it was a no-brainer for me. And here I am today talking to you.
Wow, amazing background. Tell me a little bit about your role specifically at Curve.
Yeah, so I spend my waking hours and sometimes nights thinking about how we scale Curve. How do we scale Curve? Because ultimately we're in a new category. We're creating our category, which is ultimately a banking platform that sits on top of finance, above the customer's finance. And it is a bit of a mental model that you need to get to. We've been described as the Netflix or the Spotify of banking. And frankly, we adopt that now as a mental model to think about Curve. And ultimately, we believe that finance is very fragmented because of innovation, and rightly so. We're not asking customers to ditch who they're with and who they love to come to Curve. We're saying Curve on top of who you live, who you currently are with, and who you are currently loving is better. We supercharge the benefits you enjoy as a customer through our platform and give you ease and access. So when you think about what Curve is, fundamentally, we're trying to replace your wallet. We don't believe you need to be walking around with a wallet, a physical wallet, where you have to take out a card at the point of sale and decide which card is covering which payment.
Yeah.
It's a bit of cognitive load that people have just accepted as the norm. And it may not seem as a pressing problem, as is the case with many new categories being built from the ground up. But we think we can do this a lot better. And not just for the cards, but for accounts and for loyalty cards and for other spaces in the future. So ultimately, we're not asking customers to ditch what they love. They work with Curve by adding their products or their fintechs or their finances into one space. Oversight, management, better decisions, better outcome for the customer. And that's really exciting because you think about the capabilities you can then do afterwards.
Very focused. I'm sure a lot of people now understand. Lead me through the product, the stickiness. What makes people fall in love with the product? What are the main features?
Yeah, so I mean, just to quickly answer the question you mentioned beforehand, my role at Curve is to think about the growth strategies that we can enable us to scale at speed. And to do this, I have a growth team comprised of growth marketing and growth product. Growth marketing typically accepted in Europe as a standard way to do what's called technical or digital marketing, but growth product is more of a US slant on how do you build the business by enhancing the product, removing friction, and to do that, you have a typical engineering team that's focused more on the KPI than actually feature work, for example. And in order to do this piece of work, having that harmony between the two teams makes the most sense, and in alignment with the product and engineering teams across the board. Now, to your point about stickiness, that's something that is interesting because you look at the wider context where companies went from growing very quickly with acquisition and so on, and the customers are not being well retained, and as a result, the business model isn't necessarily viable, towards a state where you're looking at what is the retention and engagement of your user base. And stickiness is everything for us. You know, we want to be an everyday use type of product. It makes sense. People are having financial needs left, right, and center. And remember, Curve isn't just for one funding card or one particular banking account. It is the entire wallet. And we believe that on most days, you will naturally make a payment on one of your cards in your wallet. So stickiness for us is basically how many of our monthly active users are currently spending on a daily and weekly active basis. And given that we don't actually account for any account-to-account payments, we are very high. We have 40%, for example, on a monthly daily basis. We have 75% on a monthly weekly basis. And this is the type of engagement we've been building. So how do we get there? We're focused on when you come to Curve, we remove friction. It's that simple. We talk about what we did at the beginning of the year, where we used to ask you to sign up, get all your details, tell you to sit tight. We're going to send you a card in 2 to 3 weeks if Royal Mail or the post, or, you know, especially if in Europe, for example, the card may not reach for a longer period of time. We tell you to wait, and then the card comes, you remember about it, and then you make a first purchase, and that's friction. We're focused on the trends of contactless and speed, and removing that friction by allowing somebody to sign up to Curve and make a transaction in minutes. And now that's the case for most of our users across Europe, and certainly in the UK, where you can literally sign up to Curve, we onboard you, we allow you to add your cards that you want to pay with, and you can fundamentally make an instant XPay payment right away and request the card for it to come in the post. That level of friction means you're activating at a higher level, and then you're actually transacting at a higher level from the get-go, which means your engagement long-term is higher. And that's the type of focus we think about when it comes to stickiness and retention, because that behavior sets the trend for you over time.
How fast is it, that process of the onboarding? Like I got the app, I did what you just said. How fast is it?
We're talking about somebody being able to sign up and transact within 60 to 90 seconds. And we're talking about the typical, what we're seeing for our platform is that the majority of our users coming through that experience are actually transacting within hours of signing up. And that's compelling for us as well, because what we need to do is make sure they can come to the value of Curve. And right now, Curve offers many different avenues, but fundamentally today, it's about making that purchase, understanding the value, and really building that mental model for I use Curve for this, this, and this. The second thing we need to do is make sure that customers are adding multiple cards to Curve, insofar as being able to take advantage of the wallet type functionality. And this is where we go into our feature sets, where we understand that if you can add multiple cards and we can give you analytics and data on the cards you're adding, you start to make smarter, better decisions. You realize, oh, I actually shouldn't have bought that particular shopping bill on the family account because it was actually a pair of clothes or shoes or going out or whatever. And you can then go back in time instead of arguing with your partner and actually just move that transaction back. And because of COVID, we looked at trends. What can we do to drive deeper engagement? And we realized, look, people are now in a different environment. They may have purchased things in a different context to before the lockdown happened across Europe and parts of the world. And ultimately, we need to give them the ability to add, go back and correct some of the decisions they've made. And if you look at our feature, Go Back in Time, it literally allows you to go back in time and move one payment from the other in a couple of taps. It is probably the most effortless interaction, and it is unbelievable user experience insofar as being able to swap one payment to another in about a tap. And we call it payment time travel. So now you're in a position where you can go back up to 90 days when it used to only be 2 weeks to move one payment from one card to the other. And now you have the ability to free up cash if you move it to a credit card back into your bank account. And then you can make better payments, say, you know what, I need to have more cash available to me to last through the lockdown period, for example. So extending it from 2 weeks to 90 days was a massive value add for our customers. We've already seen this since lockdown till now, over £1 million that our users have actually moved back and forth in time. And it's fascinating because that's about 220 something pounds per user. It's if you think about it as a mistake or a cash flow freeing up, it's quite a sizable amount on a per user basis, something that you wouldn't necessarily be able to do. And this is powered because we're not asking customers to leave their current bank account or their platforms. We're saying we will help you get the most out of your existing platforms through the Curve platform. And I think that's super compelling for many of our users, hence the stickiness we have today.
Wow. How fast, how innovative is the team in launching new feature? Let's say Google Pay and other stuff that you launch. I want to understand like the team. Get me into the Curve ecosystem.
I have been always in an environment where I work in companies where they move fast and execute. And Uber launching Uber Eats in 40 cities in the UK, literally in the space of 40 days, is an example of operational excellence and rigor and speed. And Coinbase, the same thing. We realized if we weren't going to offer cryptocurrencies that people wanted quickly, they're going to go elsewhere, we lose market share. Curve has completely shattered my view of the word fast. If you take the last 3 weeks, we've shipped a new groundbreaking feature every week. First, we started with loyalty, where you can now add all your loyalty cards, and not just loyalty, but other cards where you can take a picture or scan documents and have them in the app. We're trying to kill the wallet. We do not want you to walk around with a wallet, and we want to make sure you're not missing out on the points and the ability to, use your loyalty cards just for the sake of convenience with Curve. The second is that we've actually expanded the Google Pay functionality in Europe. That was last week.
Wow.
And we're already seeing a 500% uptake in people adding their cards to Google Pay. And we're already seeing a 47% increase in transactions coming from Google Pay. And these are in markets where the current card they have will never work with Google Pay because that bank or the card issuer doesn't have support with Google Pay. But by adding it to Curve, the card is now instantly contactless with the physical card itself, as well as via the mobile payment contactless system, Google Pay in this instance. And now they can go around and shop and have the same kind of experience that they wouldn't otherwise be able to
This is
have.
amazing. Basically, you just you made a turn and you gave them like something that they wouldn't have in so much time. You know, their market is not supportive of these payments
We
ways.
really want to, yeah, we really want to accelerate the trend and help them get the most out of it. And we see it as a COVID safe way to pay. And this is something we're very much focused on, building contactless, building digital payments is something that's very important to us. And then the final thing we did, and we just launched it this week, I mean, yesterday, there's something I'm particularly proud because of the level of complexity involved. So we offer cashback on users who spend on Curve in different degrees, but 1% cashback on up to 3 or 6 retailers, depending on where you are in the product. And ultimately, as you spend across your entire wallet, if you add all these cards in, you're earning cashback, but you're also earning rewards if you're referring other people. So now we want to make it easier for you to be able to realize the benefits and the value of the cashback. And we've now launched a feature that will allow you to, if you opt in and toggle the option to automatically spend your cashback balance. And we will take care of it. So what happens is you said you want to spend, let's say, from a particular card. And whenever you go shopping and you make a payment, if we can see that your cashback balance can cover that transaction, in real time, at the point of sale, we will literally take the money from the cashback balance and cover the transaction.
Wow.
So it's basically on the house. If it's not the case, we'll charge your underlying funding card. Again, this kind of real-time payment routing is something that doesn't exist to this level of comprehensiveness and easy UX and experience. And this is just one use case of how we would use our payment routing engine.
How do you call this feature?
This feature is called Curve Cash Auto Spend at this moment. And it kind of, without going into the future state, it kind of gives you a directional view as to what we can do in the future with this particular logic here. But, you know, if you think about what this is really solving for the customer, it is the same decision a customer takes when they look in their wallet, they take out their wallet and they're thinking, which card do I spend from? We're allowing the customer to upfront set the expectation, the decision that should be made. And what they do is walk around with one card and money's flying left, right, and center to their respective funding cards. So this is something that is an integral piece of our company that differentiates us in a way that's material compared to, for example, Apple Pay, Google Pay, and Samsung Pay. And this is why they see us as a partnership and additive experience rather than trying to compete with them. So it's great so far. The uptake's been wonderful. It's only been a day into the launch. Great positive response from our customers, and that speaks to the speed we have. Great team internally. And that's just over the last 3 weeks.
Unbelievable. So every day I'll talk to you, there something new going on in the team, some new ideas. And I know that you grew with the community. And that's an important aspect with all the, of course, the crowdfunding and stuff. Tell me a little bit about this and the Curve card and every cool thing that you did with the community.
Yeah, we have a strong culture of validating before we launch to the wider market. Our community is integral to helping us build the products and services we have today, and they give us really great feedback. We have a community of a mixed bag. We have people who are very tech savvy. We have people who are very fintech savvy, people who are very finance focused as well. And what they do is they give us more nuanced feedback to the problems that may be presented to a regular customer who wouldn't necessarily be able to articulate. So we get lots of really high level feedback that we aggregate and we actually build into the go-to-market. So before we launch, we've already ironed out a degree of those friction points and those negative experiences by speaking regularly with our community. And we've got some rock stars on the Curve side who's been building out the community over the last several years, and hat tip to them because they've done a remarkable job. And then our core principle as a company is we're defaulting to transparency and openness. You know more than any that fintech is very complicated and intertwined, and there's many partnerships and dependencies. So it's not easy to just flick a feature on and roll it out everywhere. Having that ability to share where we are in stages is something that's super important to us, and it's why our community has grown. Why we was able to do, at the time, record-breaking, fundraising within the community for our Series B, and then ultimately when we had the Wirecard incident, our community was helping us every step of the way understand where we are. We were giving them almost twice a day updates as to where we are at certain points. And if you do this long enough, you start to build really high quality trust, support, and hopefully love with the core users or the community who care most about the success of the product in the long term.
And what was with if you remember, like the founders edition card? I mean, I'm a Curve user. I'm from the beginning. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we could have just said, okay, we're gonna raise some money, crowdfund, and ultimately you get a T-shirt. I mean, like this one, for example, and some swag. But we just felt it would be really wonderful to build a unique experience around those who are willing to bet on us in the early stages. As we went into the Series B. And we decided as a company that it would make sense for us to create limited edition cards for those who participated as investors. So you have two cards that we have. One's plastic, red, one's black metal. This is the black metal one.
Ah, you have it on you. Nice. Okay.
And what's interesting and why I can show it to everyone here today is because actually this is Europe's first panelist card, which means that we don't have any contactless details at the back of the card.
Oh, wow.
Same for the red. And this is, again, important for security, for marketing, frankly, so I can show it to you without, hiding
People
any
will
elements.
take screenshots,
And the fact is, this card, if it gets lost, no issue. You can't spend with it. But we put the details in the application itself to keep everything safe. And we do that because ultimately, if we're asking you to add, which our customers typically do, 3, 5, 6 different cards in the Curve application, and then you get this card lost, the customer has access to your money in a more riskier way. So what we do is we build this type of security and protocol in place, plus the ability to go into your main app, the Curve app, and lock the app itself so that you no longer can have money leaving via the Curve card, but you can go back to your underlying funding card and continue to spend whether you have any other cards linked. So that was something we did for our community. It took a bit longer than we would have liked across the different metal and red cards. The red card is a limited edition version, and it's really, really pretty to look at. But yeah, really pleased to have done that. And I think it's definitely the right thing to do for our customers and users and community who supported us and then invested in Curve.
Amazing. Well, there's so many features and so many updates. I'm telling you honestly, because I'm interviewing, this is a matchathon, so we have so many talks today, and like it's crazy. And what you have to offer, it's wow, it's a whole ecosystem of all inside of a wallet. Basically, it's unbelievable. Other markets that you're going to and updates.
Yep. Yeah. So we are a European platform as of today. We have plans for the US and working day and night on making sure we are set up for success there. The US market is well structured with high innovative fintechs, and without naming names, you can think of a couple that come to mind almost immediately. And with a deep hiring pool. But what we're thinking about from that market is we're not trying to compete with any of these existing fintechs or new ones that may be going there. We're saying it makes sense that, cool, you have many options, you have many different platforms, and Curve sits on top of that to provide a user maybe a single entrance point to be able to view all they have and then take action individually from the different accounts. And this is where we think it's even more compelling what we've built in Europe, in the US, particularly because the average user has 5-6 cards between credit, debit, and other cards. And that's a big chunky wallet because they are optimizing for points or cashback or whatever, more so than in Europe, where people may just have 1, 2, or 3. So already that's a very compelling option. And then if you think about the US market as well, they're behind the curve in terms of contactless. So again, no matter, like, they haven't actually built the integration on the card side, physical cards, let alone with the different XPays. So being able to launch in a market where we will be able to support contactless payments for all cards added to Curve is again going to be a very compelling thing. And then you add in all the secret sauce of what we've been doing in Europe and rolling those features out to the US. We're very excited about that launch, and it's a meaningful market for the company and also for our vision of bringing this infrastructure to the world.
Amazing. Something that you saw during COVID on the behavior of your customers, users?
Yeah, I mean, I, like many others, would probably come to the same conclusion, that firstly, people spent less out in person, outdoors, and spent more online. And in spending more out online, for example, the purchase was less frequent but larger in value. And it was, again, really important that we started to think about how do we enable people to go from coming to Curve and being able to do those functionalities, spend online quickly. And, you know, one of the things we've been thinking about is how do we point users and incentivize them towards higher online e-commerce type purchases and transactions and so on. So, you know, when you come to Curve, you join, you get cashback for a period of time, which is quite enjoyable. And being able to earn 1% when you're spending like crazy, for example, on Amazon or other platforms is a nice little incentive. So that's something we saw as a trend. We obviously realized that people were very conservative when the lockdowns happened in the respective markets quite quickly, but then rebounded much quicker than we expected to. People weren't sure where things will net out, and then they realized life goes on and they need to be able to spend. But then the contactless took off, massively took off. I mean, we're already like 3.5 times more in terms of contactless as like in the UK, for example, compared to where we were in 2016. But the trend just took off in a meaningful way where more and more customers are adding to XPay. So for example, where we saw a trend where customers may have come to Curve, used the physical transaction, not be that compelled to actually add their card to an XPay for mobile contactless payments, they were doing that massively. And already we have, for example, on the Apple Pay side of things, 60% of our customers are XPay users regularly. And that's the transaction volume we're seeing and the trend towards COVID-safe digital first payments. And that's something we've been thoughtful around.
Wow. Well, I can go on and talk to you about the feature. Is there anything else that you want to share with people here? I mean, you announced a lot of things here. Something that you want to share that I missed. Of course, in the UK, there's open banking and other stuff that are going on and other opportunities. Anything that I missed?
Yeah, I think, I mean, ultimately, Samsung Pay Card has been a big focus for us. We're not trying to compete with others. We've made that very clear from day one. We're a platform that sits on top of, which means that we want to either make it more accessible for customers to access other fintechs benefits and values, or make it a bit more convenient and easy. Samsung Pay is an example of that partnership where we're enabling them to facilitate and support more cards being added to the Samsung Pay wallet to be able to do those types of transactions. And what was great about that partnership is that Samsung were very open-minded in terms of what we had to offer, and they wanted us to actually support them with native Curve functionality coming through a Samsung Pay experience. So if you were new to Curve and you actually decided to come via Samsung Pay, as opposed to signing up to Curve, you can get yourself a Samsung Pay card, you can get yourself cashback. Samsung themselves are giving a degree of cashback on some of their purchases, but you also get the go back in time benefit. You get the ability to add multiple funding cards or payment cards. You get the ability to see everything all in one space. And it's just a transformative experience for our partnerships and so on to be able to access more and more benefits. And then, ultimately, that's where we think we can have the most opportunity from a growth leader perspective, is to be working on partnerships that really solve our partners' pain points for their users and customers and gives us access to a different audience entirely. But then also geographic expansion has been something focused for us. So this year we spent mostly rolling out features we've trialed in the UK over to the European markets, and obviously our US project, which is something we're very excited about. And then we're also focused on building deeper product engagement to drive virality of the products. We've already launched Curve Send, which is enabling people to send money from one Curve user to another. And we're launching a whole host of features later this year that's going to drive deeper engagement and then ultimately more virality going forward.
Wow, unbelievable. Where can people follow, get their hands on a Curve?
Yeah, so if you're interested, you want to get yourself a Curve card, you can do so by going to www.curve.com. You can also find us on the App Store. We're available in the EEA markets. And ultimately, you can sign up, get your Curve card, a digital card, and start spending with an XPay literally in minutes. And you will be able to enjoy some of those benefits as you start. And at the moment in time, anyone who joins Curve can get up to 90 days cashback as a free trial. And that's something we are keen to help customers understand the benefit of Curve, but also, especially during COVID, where it's hard to save money. So if you can earn money as you spend money, we think that's a great opportunity for our customers to have a bit more disposable income. And that's something that is a promotional deal for new Curve signups to come through the platform. So that's something we're both excited about.
Amazing. Lots of announcements, and of course, probably also a lot of fintechs here are watching and see you as a collaboration, platform, as friends. They can team up with you, and that's a great thing that you mentioned, the partnerships that you guys are doing over there. So thank you very, very much, JD. It was inspiring, amazing, super fast, a lot of content, not the average interview, at least for me during this summit, in a good way. Like, amazing. I'm shocked by, and I'm sure that we didn't cover everything, but there's still a lot to come. So thank you very, very much, and enjoy the summit.
Thank you so much, and my pleasure, and thanks for your time.
Great. Good luck. Bye-bye.
Take care.